Your brother? Well,
Yeah, he's fantastic in cooking. Sure.
right, okay. So where are you thinking?
אלוהי אומרים, אשרי ימי שלא יכול.
917. 98.
ישו, 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 וימך אלוהי אומרים, אשרי ימי שלא
Yeah. The chain is there.
יכול.
The base, I'm making the 9 torches in YouTube.
Yeah, like tonight. Yeah, the shir. Shov yashov yashov. Time. Meet them. Oh, yeah. Of course. Just it's on the counter. There's a guy from our shul. It's Hamoed. It's Hamoed. So MIchel, Yashav, Shukun Kiyim Kailana, Yashusha. Avi, I've never said the Shem. Oh no, I'm not going to. I think that they brought back the machines to me. Okay, fine, fine. We can't read it. Rabbi Yaakov, but can I give another song? Yeah, you're gonna get it. Huh? Something like Yaakov, it's not snuff, it's candy. Yeah. That's it. Oh man. Bad for Monty. I'm send it to I can't sweet. You were passing. So anyone? I miss Macnoy Becca Gecko, there is a Ibrisa Machta, Iberes Magyaka, Yes, Sameya,
That's usually very humble. Only ignorance is yeah. Wie du willst. Das direkt. Ich kann per Rabbi Marosov. Which one? Okay, that's yeah. Those just not young blow.
L'chaim. And we have Baruch Hashem. This is 18 years we're bringing in the sukkah together, and it's a moedic thing. The Rebbe had a big koch and Simchas Beis Hashoeiva both that this will be a Verbringen and we will tanzen in the ganze gas will tanzen. But Chazal say that Simchas Beis Hashoeiva, that's where Yoina ben Amitai got his Ruach HaKodesh. So over the years we had terrific Verbringens here. If you remember, we had here the year before COVID, we had Rabbi Chaim, who was to go with my father and my son for 37 years. They went together every Wednesday night for 37 years. They went together to knock mezuzahs on people's doors. Last year we had the Mullah Butman, Zechrona Levrocha. We had here Rabbi, for many years we had Rabbi Heber. So tonight we have my brother who's Mashpia Olei Torah, who I learn with every day. So l'chaim, David shall help that we should walk in one person and walk out of the Simchas Beis Hashoeiva a totally new person. L'chaim. L'chaim. It's a schus to come to my Yechiel's Chabad in Flatbush. I want to say l'chaim to everyone. Good Moed. I want to dedicate the Verbringen to the theme of Simchas Beis Hashoeiva, to the theme of Simcha. So the time should be a freiliche Verbringen and a freiliche yard.
Amen.
Now the MIchel Rebbe gave this famous mashal. MIchel Rebbe was the Ushpizen from previous day. Tonight's at Tzemach Tzedek. So we'll start with a word from the MIchel Rebbe and a word from the Tzemach Tzedek. MIchel Rebbe gave a mashal on the pasuk Oz Yibaka Kashakar Arecha, that in the morning the first rays of light break through the darkness, which is actually the pasuk that Yaakov Avinu says when he comes to visit the sukkah at the Ushpiz. So he says that if you fill up a barrel and you keep filling it up so it's more than the barrel of wine can handle, the barrel of oil can handle, it creates a crack. And some of the liquid oozes out, spills out from the crack. And even though only a little spills out of the crack, it shows that the barrel was full, more than full. And he says that's the idea of Yibaka Kashachar Erecha, that if you have Simcha on Sukkos, and Simchas Beis Hashoeiva, and Simchas Torah, and you have the Simcha B'Shleimus in a way of Pritzes Geder, Simcha Pritzes Geder, it'll create a crack, and the Simcha will spill out the whole year. And the whole year, you'll be able to do your Avodah Hashem B'Simcha as a result of your tremendous Simcha that you had on Sukkos and Simchas Torah. And the Rebbe says, it teaches us, someone might say, listen, if I wasn't all the way happy on Sukkos, okay, it's 1 week of the year. No, it's not. If you want Simcha the entire year, you have to fill up your barrel on Sukkos to the extent that it'll crack, and then it'll spill out the whole year. You need Shleimus and Simcha on Sukkos to have some Simcha the whole year. If you can't say it's 1 week, if I manage to be happier or not, let's see. No, there is no other option. We have to have Simcha in a way that's complete and full and more than full. Shleimus and Simcha. So let's start with a very freilich nigun. At the Simcha Shavina Oifen, that it breaks through our own, each one their own barrel, it makes a crack and spills over. Allah sallah, Allah sallah, Allah sallah, Allah yotzim oyim. Allah sallah, Allah sallah, Allah sallah, Allah yotzim oyim. Yeah. Hey, so that was time. Start with the story unrelated to the Simcha. We'll get back to the Simcha, but tonight's the Shpiz of the Tzemach Tzedek. It's one of the stories most inspired me with Tzemach Tzedek. The year Tafresh Gimel, Tzemach Tzedek was called for a meeting in Peterburg. It was a famous Asifa where the Tzemach Tzedek was arrested many times for having a strong position against the government. At that point, the Tsar's government wanted to make certain gzeidos against Yiddishkeit, ban the learning of Chassidus, force secular education in Jewish chinuch, and the Tzemach Tzedek didn't stand for any pshatus. It's a real Mesidus Nefesh. At that meeting, the government said, we just need the top representatives of Klal Yisrael, force them to agree to the gzeidos, and then all Yidden will listen. So they took a representative from Chassidim, the Tzemach Tzedek, representative from the Litvisha was Rabbi Yechiel, the representative of the business class was a Yidra, his name was Halperin, and then they had a representative of Maskilim, the person's name was Mr. Stern. And then there was the government representative, the Sarah scholar. It was a meeting of 5 people. And there's a lot of stories about that asif. Here's one story. In order to prove that we have to intervene in Jewish education, the Sarah scholar said, we can't let you teach Talmud without us editing it. Because in your Svardim it says, not just a Gemara or a Medish, it says, Toiv shebegoyim haroik. The best goy you should kill. We should let you teach that in your schools and not intervene? What do you have to say about this? That was a tough question. What should you say to that question? What is he going to answer? That's not certain. This part you won't teach us, this line. What is he going to say? Well, we will teach it. What are you going to answer? So Tzemach Tzedek said, Rabbi Yechiel should answer. So Rabbi Yechiel said that actually the original Sefer, original Medrash that had this line, Toiv shebegoyim haroig, it didn't say that. It said Toiv shebegoyim ketoil, which is an Aramaic to kill. It says really the people later reprinted the Medrash, the Sefer, and they made a mistake. They thought it said Toiv shebegoyim ketoil, the best goy you should kill, and they translate the Hebrew haroig. It's not what it really meant. Katoil could also mean, in Hebrew, a Catholic is a Katol. Spelled the same way. Kuf Tes Vav Lamed. So he said, it really means, Tov Shebegoyim Katol. The best guy is a Catholic. The Russians are Catholics. Russian Hamoed, they reprinted the Sefer. They thought it meant to kill, and they wrote Haroik. You got it all wrong. The government minister was so shocked. Such an answer he didn't expect. He thought he got a home run. He got a hit. That's it. That was the end of the, that shtickle of the Asifa. Sorry, it wasn't the end. The first, the Sarah said, I didn't expect an answer, but is it really true? Can you prove it to me? They said, go check the king's library. A lot of old svarim. They checked, they pulled out an old version of the Medrash, and it said they're talking Tov Shebegoyim Katoil in Aramaic. That was the end of that. Later on, the Yechiel Eloshin said, I didn't think of this answer. When the Tzemach Tzedek said to me, you answer, he put an answer in my head. That's one moifus. The second moifus is, there is no nusach of any medrash that says the word katoil. When the Tsar went to the library, that moment the word appeared that way in the Sefer. Two moifsim. The story was written down by Rabbi Perlov, they support him, and he writes in Sagayim that the chassid that said over the story, he said, Pshat. Why didn't the Tzemach Tzedek himself say the answer? Because the Tzemach Tzedek, this is the chassid's perspective. The chassid wouldn't want to say a Pshat, like V'gala Ponim Kafla Torah. If he didn't want to say a Pshat, that's not right. It's a sheker. It's not the real answer. The real Pshat is Tov Shebegoyim Haroik. So he said, let someone else should say the answer. So he put it into another, to the Yechiel Eloshin in his head. The Yechiel Eloshin himself said that there were two moifsim. The answer was put into his head by the Tzemach Tzedek, and the word was put into the Sefer that day. And then I want to get to the Vart of the Tzemach Tzedek. So the Rebbe repeated, Sichel the Friedrich Rebbe, one time there was a Fabrengen Sukkos for the Tzemach Tzedek and his children in the Sukkah. But there were a couple of Chassidim that stood outside the Sukkah trying to hear what's being said. And he heard that the oldest son of Tzemach said, Rabbi Shalom said, that I heard a Vart from, they were talking about the Baal Shem Tov, and the Shem Tov, the Magid, and their Talmidim. So Rabbi Shalom said, I have a story, a Vart that I heard, B'Shem de Baditchever. But someone said, yeah, unser Mechutim, that's here. They said the Baditchever said up shot in the Pasuk, V'lakachtem lachem b'yom harishayin. The Medrash says, why does it say b'yom harishayin? It should have said b'yom hachamisha asar l'chodesh hashvi'i. Because the first day of Sukkot is really the 15th day of Tishrei. The Medrash says, Rishayin l'cheshben avonos. It's the first day that you make a cheshben of your sins. And the regular pshat is that Yom Kippur, he gets forgiven. He has no Avedis anymore. And between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, there's no time to do Avedis. So the first day of Sukkot is the Rishayin l'cheshben avonos. The first day we can make a cheshben. What Avedis you're doing? Well, that's a very depressing pshat. It comes the first day of Sukkot, Mansav Choseinu, Rishon l'cheshbon avonos. So this said a different pshat. He says the tshuva that the Yid does in assessment with Tshuva Kippur is tshuva miyira, tshuva of fear. That's why it's called Yomim Noiroim, days of awe. Tshuva miyira makes your zdoinus to shkagis. Any of it he did, b'mezid, turns into a shoygig. But Sukkot, Mansav Choseinu, from after Yom Kippur, is tshuva mi'ava. Tshuva out of love. And tshuva mi'ava turns your Avedis into schuyos, into mitzvahs. So he says the first day of Sukkot is Rishvein l'cheshbin avonos. It's the first day we count which Avedis turned into mitzvahs. Till now, we had a certain amount of mitzvahs you did. The Avedis, you could do tshuva on, but any mitzvahs you did, that was the number. But now that your Avedis turned into mitzvahs, there's a new cheshbon. How many mitzvahs do you have based on how many Vedas turn into mitzvahs? Because the Rishon l'cheshbon avonos means it's the first day that we start making a new cheshbon. How many Vedas turn into mitzvahs? Because now you're doing tshuva mi'ava, which is for connected to after Yom Kippur to Sukkot. Mansav Choseinu. Now we don't do tshuva. It's the same. Chassidus says in many places. Sukkot and Simchas Torah is very similar to the Shal Yom Kippur. This is the Kava Yidin, this is the Kava Simcha, Kava Ava. And with this, the Rebbe said, now we understood the story. The Frierdiker Rebbe says that once I walked into my father Rebbe Shab in Motzei Yom Kippur, and he said, Tate, was it's there? Now what? Finish Yom Kippur, now what? Rebbe Shab said, it's there that from Ersh Tuvatum. Now it's really time to tshuva.
Oh, yeah.
What's shot in the story? Yom Kippur says, the Rebbe says, I don't shot in the story. Till now we did tshuva miyira. It's there that from Ersh Tuvatum. Tshuva miyava. From the Donis and Kazachias. We see the power of Zman Simchaseinu, a time of Simcha, that turns the Avedis into Schuyos, just by the fact that we're the Simcha. And they printed recently the story, the Simchas Shavua this past week, maybe some of you read it, the story of the Chassid that a Marash, the son fell ill, the doctors gave up, and he said, the only thing that can save me is to go to the Rebbe Marash and get him a bracha to have a miracle. Because a little before Sukkot, he traveled to the Rebbe Marash and he came there right before Sukkot. And he asked the Gabbai, I need a Yechidus. He said, the Rebbe doesn't make Yechidus. There's no Yechidus on Yom Tov, even on Chol Hamoed. The Rebbe is busy. After Sukkot, before everyone leaves, Lubavitch, they have Yechidus. So the Gabbai, it's an emergency. Well, the Gabbai is okay, first day Chol Hamoed, I'll arrange your Yechidus. Say there was with Rebbe Marash, if you walk into Yechidus, you brought your zettel, say if the Rebbe Marash put out his hand to take your zettel, that was a good sign. You're helped. If the Rebbe Marash said, put the zettel down on the table, that was not good. So he comes to Yechidus, and obviously he's very nervous what's going to be. Every chassid comes to Yechidus, but this is mamish. He doesn't even know if his son is still alive. There's no ways of communication so fast. Then he comes to Yechidus, and the Rebbe Marash doesn't put out his hand. So he puts out his hand, hoping the Rebbe will stretch out his hand and take the paper. And the Rebbe Manasseh doesn't do. The Rebbe points to the table to put it down. So he keeps his hand hanging in the air. And the Rebbe Manasseh is looking very serious and points to the table. So he puts it on the table and leaves the room. And he's tzubrachen. He's crying the whole Chol Hamoed. That's it. There's nothing to do now. The Rebbe didn't help me. And came Simchas Torah, and everyone in shul is dancing, and he's crying. At one point, in the middle of the Akafis, he thinks to himself and says, what am I doing? Right? Probably after Yom Tov, the whole time he's crying, probably after Yom Tov, he'll get a message that his son died. I said, right now there's a mitzvah to be happy. What am I doing crying? I have to ignore everything and dance, and whatever will be. Now it's not good. So against his nature, he went into the dancing, and he danced to go to the other extreme, extra simcha. He danced. Wilson was there, games in Pastor. After Yom Tov, there was Yechidus. Anybody's leaving Lubavitch gets a Yechidus, and he got a Yechidus. And Rebbe Rash gives him a big smile and says, when you came Chol Hamoed, I didn't see how I could help you. But the simcha that you had on the simcha, just simcha b'ta'arasa, just to be a yid and be b'simcha, you had by the kudim of Simchas Torah, that broke all the gzeiras. Simcha played it together, and your son, you're going to come home, your son will be healthy already. When we see the power, Simcha b'chlal kol hashanah, with Simcha on Sukkos, which is an extra Zman Simchaseinu. And I want to share a beautiful sikha that I read this year Sukkos in Rebbe, B'ti Muga Tovshin Yotes, and it was very powerful. Let's think about Simchas Beis Hashoeiva. We made now dancing, walked off the street. I had to do it every night with music during Chol Hamoed. First day's Yom Tov without music. And it originated, the Mishnah says, that did in the Beis HaMikdash. So is Simchas Beis Hashoeiva a minig? Is it a mitzvah? Is it a mitzvah that ice? Is it a mitzvah born? What is the gather Simchas Hashoeiva? Do you have to do it? It's a shus, it's a chiyuv. And the Rebbe leads to the end of the sikha that it's a mitzvah to say deiraisa. And it was mamash a chiddush. The Rebbe gets to it somewhere. The Rebbe first asks, how can you make Simchas Beis Hashoeiva? Chayre ema arvin simcha b'simcha. Is that in the not make a chasana Yom Tov for Chol Hamoed? Because it's a mitzvah of samachta b'chagecha. And there's a mitzvah to misameach chasam v'kalim. Eima arven simcha b'simcha. So you can't have the mitzvah of simchas chasam v'kalim when you have a mitzvah of samachta b'chagecha. Therefore, there are no chasnas and Yom Tov and Chol Hamoed. So if so, how can you make Simchas Hashoeiva, which is from Nisach HaMayim, Sheivas HaMayim, it's a stira to the Simchas of Sukkot, Simchas Yom Tov, Eimar b'simcha b'simcha. And the Rebbe gives three answers that are all not so good. One suggestion is that maybe it's just a minig. Now a minig is not a problem. Eimar b'simcha b'simcha means you can't have two kiyubim of simcha. But a minig of simcha, listen, people have a minig to go on a trip with Chol Hamoed. It makes them happy. It makes the kids happy. It's not a stira to Eimar b'simcha b'simcha. It's not a din. It's a shus. So if it's a shus and it's a minig, the Rebbe is doichet, kama makoides, sein Gemara and sein Poskim, it sounds like it was a chiyuv. The Rebbe suggests maybe Hayois, the first night of Simchas Beis Hashoeiva, first night of Yom Tov, midrabanan is to do some Hashoeiva. And the Simcha of Sukkot only starts the first day. The Gemara has the limud that only when you have the Chiba of Karban Shlamim starts the mitzvah of Samachta b'chagecha. So since you already started to be happy some Hashoeiva the night before, it doesn't get cancelled by Simchas Beis Hashoeiva, by Simchas Achad. And I push that off as well. And you can't say a simcha, a chiyuv derabon. If you say it's a chiyuv derabon on the first night, as soon as you get a chiyuv deraisa the next morning, it cancels the derabon. It's a whole arichus. The end of the Rebbe says like this: that there's a Rambam, and the Rambam when he describes the mitzvah of Sukkot, he says that even though every single Yom Tov a person has to be happy, but on Sukkot is an extra chiyuv simcha, more than a regular Yom Tov. And it says in the pasuk, "V'samachtem mei Hashem lakeichem shivas yamim." 7 days you have to be extra happy in front of Hashem. And then continues, and how do you make that simcha? So he says, in the Beis of Mikdash, they stayed up the whole night, and the tzaddikim, the chassidim, and Shemaisa, they would juggle and dance and do all this kunsten, everyone else would watch. And it describes what the Mishnah describes they did by Simchas Hashoeiva. So Rebbe says, wait a minute. That simcha that the Mishnah describes was Simchas Beis Hashoeiva for drawing the water. The Rambam doesn't say a word about it, the mitzvah of Shivas Mayim. He doesn't even bring the pasuk Shafta Mayim B'Sasing. He says the source of dancing the whole night was the pasuk V'samachtem L'fnei Hashem L'keichem Shivas Yamim. Kumtoy says the Rebbe that according to the Rambam, the mitzvah that they dance, that they danced all night in the Beis Hamikdash, every single night of Sukkot, was not because they were so happy that they were shoyiv mayim for the special mitzvah of Nisach HaMayim. It was because Sukkot you have to be more happy than a regular Yom Tov. And the extra simcha, that's a chiyuv d'iraisa, of a samachtan l'fnei Hashem l'kechem shivas yamim, is through dancing all night and making kunsten and juggling v'chulu. So Rebbe, wait a minute. All over Chassidus, there's so many mamorim explaining that the Simchas Beis Hashoeiva is so great because it's connected to Mayim. Unlike Yayin, even though Yayin is usually Mesameach, but it's Simcha that has to do with Tam V'das. And Mayim is Simcha that's the Mailim Tam V'das because Mayim represents Kabbalah's oil. And why are you happy if you're having Kabbalah's oil? Azevol Derebishter. So when you're doing it Mailim Tam V'das, it's a unfleetable Simcha and it's always connected to Mayim. What happened now? Tell me according to the Rambam, it's nothing to do with Shivas HaMayim or Nisach HaMayim. It's Simcha Sukkos. So the Rebbe says, must be, the Iker Simcha is Simchas Yom Tov, but Chazal decided that it should be connected together with Shivas HaMayim, and they had an asmachta from the Pasuk to Shafta Mayim Nesasing. And Yos Chazal decided to connect it to Shivas HaMayim. It must be Baruch Niyas, the Simcha is connected to Mayim, and all the Mamarim make sense. But the Yesoid HaChiyuv is the mitzvah de'iraisa, of the Samachtim L'fnei Hashem L'kechem Shivas Yom. What do we gain if it's a chiyuv deraisa? You know, it's always a mila. It's a mila. You'll find that when it's a derabanan, you say "Arevim my divrei soifrim." Hashem loves when it's a derabanan because it came from us. When it's a minig, it's a shus. It's the mila being a chiyuv. Each one has a smile. What's the mila being deraisa? The mila being deraisa is that Torah is the balabasa from Veld. Teure is Hechenwelt and Balabosov involved. Ich talk about Isaac, about Alma, time shana kommen to Reilam, Chazal in the Pasuk, Yechiel, Goyim alai. Whenever you're stocked in of Torah, that changes the world. The world has to fit with Torah. Torah doesn't fit with the world. So when you have a mitzvah say deraisa, it's not shaykh that there should be menias v'kuvim. It's not shaykh that there should be a gashmistic issue that stops you from doing that chiyuv, because it's the deraisa. So if the chiyuv simcha, the extra simcha of sukkahs, which includes the dancing by night, by Simchas Hashoeiva, is a chiyuv deraisa, so you can't have anything, nothing can stop you. You'll be tired, you can have different sodas that you had before, or now, or later. Whatever menias v'kuvim you think is stopping from having a simcha, you tell yourself, it's a deraisa. Hamoed, nothing can stop me. And Hamoed, with that koyach of a mitzvah to say deraisa to the simcha, which includes the Simchas Beis Hashoeiva, and Dafkin Oifen of the Rebbe pushed very much, the Oifen of dancing, which is the of the Mailam B'tam B'das, and all Yidden are equal in that way. And that should bring the Simcha together, say our own gather, that should bring Simcha to us, B'chol Yom Moshe Shana, should crack our barrel, and say the Simcha Segula, L'chaim.
Amen. Chaim, L'chaim,
Ay ay la 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 ay la 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 ya ma ay ya ya ma ay ya ya ay ay la 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 ya la ya ma ay ya 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 ay ya ya la 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 ay ya ya la 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 ma ya ya la la Ay ay da la la ay da la la ya la ya ay ay da la la ya da la ya la shume ay 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 ya ya ay 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 de ram ay 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 de
You can have Fine.
The Mishnah says that in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, the main people that danced were Chassidim, Anshe Maisa, Tzadikim. It says that the Tanner, Rabbi Gamliel, or Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, they would juggle, some would make, they had a special way how to stand on their two thumbs, Kida, and they would dance and be Mesameach, and all the Yidden, not just the ladies would watch, they has it from the special balcony, but also the regular men, people would watch. And today, Simansach, it's demanded that every single Yid should dance himself and be not just the one who's being nismach, but be mesameach. And the Rebbe used many times the term kalkalasenu, zui takanasenu. The fact that we're after Korban Beis Hamikdash, it also is a takana. It empowered us in a certain way. There was this famous mashal of the Baal Shem Tov. Shem Tov says mashal in Rosh Hashanah, but that brings it like Rabbi Simchas Hashoeiva. There was a certain gibber, and everyone in the city, in the country, was relying on him. He's going to fight our battles. Everyone else just went behind him. He's going to fight for us. And they started the battle, and they're conquering. As they got third of the path done. The gibber says, "You can't rely on me all the way. Mostly rely on me, but not all the way." They went a little more, and he said, "You guys got to also chip in a little." And as he got close to the end, the gibber says, "I can't anymore." And now, Kol B'nai Medina, they had to fight the last bit of the Muhammad. The nimsha was that Amal, things were done by the big tzaddikim. Now in the last bit, Ikav said the Mashiach, the last little stretch to make the whole world Dirba Techtoinim, now everyone does it. And Aderech Zeh was in Hashoeiva. What tzaddikim did then, now all of us do it. And all of us have to be part of the simcha and part of the dancing. They say the story, I'm not sure if it's true. I think it's not. But the message is true. That there was a chassid, the time of the Magid or the Alter Rebbe, and the Baal Shem Tov, and from the Baal Shem Tov's Talmidim, they demanded very much the Inyan of Yivdei Sheba Simcha. It's not really a chiddush of the Baal Shem Tov. It's a pasuk, and it's really the Rambam's shot. The pasuk, the Rambam's pirush in the pasuk was that all the tzaris that Yidden got in the Klavus, unfortunately, came because they didn't do mitzvahs b'simcha. It's the Rambam's shot. And he actually does it, I think, in these halachas of the hemshech halach of simcha, psuka, simcha sheva. He says, "B'chlal Yid has to be simcha with Hashem." And we see from this pasuk, there's all these tzaddis are coming because they didn't serve Hashem b'simcha b'tuv. Rashi, I think, teaches when you had simcha, when you had plenty, you weren't serving Hashem. The Rambam teaches you did mitzvahs, but you didn't do it b'simcha. But the Baal Shem Tov underlined it many times. He made a big dogish, he made a big kach, he demanded it from everyone. That the simcha has to be in Avodas Hashem. Like we said before, we take it from Sukkot the whole year, but it's the whole year also. So this chassid was a very happy chassid. It was always by him in the house. They had a suda, they had a verbringen. His neighbor was not a chassid. It was not just not a chassid, he was very against chassidim. And he was particularly against this weird avoid of being happy. Mod nazach, Galus, be happy. So during the year, it wasn't so hard for him. He closed his windows. He had the soundproof walls. He didn't hear the verbringens. But on Sukkot was terrible. His backyard was his sukkah. His neighbor's backyard was their sukkah. Everyone hears what's going on in the sukkahs of each other. So he hears the verbringens. They're singing and they're dancing in the simcha. He can't handle it. What should he do? He can't eat in his house. I'm star putting the sukkah, but I don't know if this is one of them. What does he do? Being that he was the Gevir of the shtetl, the Gevir was very powerful those days. He was, most shtetl had one Gevir and everyone else was aniyim. So one year sukkahs, he said, he's making a rule. No one in the city is allowed to sell or lend any wood to the chassid. Thereby, he will not be able to build his sukkah. That's it. He won't have a sukkah in his backyard, and I'll be able to have finally a happy sukkahs. But there's no happiness near my sukkah.
Happy.
Yeah, it was like the Lashon Saginor. So everyone was scared of the Gevir in the town. Taka. We're not going to give him any wood. Comes the first night of Sukkot, and the Gevir is feeling a little bit happy. But this year he'll be quiet in the Sukkot. And he's sitting in the Sukkah, and he hears Mefebrei. They're singing and there's dancing. It's a tutzach. He's very upset. Destroyed us. It's worse now because he worked so hard and he's expecting quiet. Couldn't hold himself in. He goes out of his sukkah. He sees there's a sukkah built, the neighbor. And he storms into the sukkah and says, you have to tell me the name. Who gave you wood against my orders? So his sister, he gives him a big smile and says, you can't talk before you say l'chaim. I even answer him before you say l'chaim. So he has to say l'chaim. He has to say l'chaim. He says, listen, I'll tell you what happens. You don't have to punish anybody in the shtetl. I'll tell you exactly what happened. It was Erev Sukkot. No one wants to give me wood as much as I offered to pay. Finally, I decided where I'm going to get wood from. So I went to the edge of the town. There's the Yiddish Beis HaChaim, the Beis HaKvaris. And near the Beis HaKvaris, the Chevre Kedisha have a little hut. And there they have prepared a lot of wood. What's the wood there for? Chastrom was a nifter till they have time to make a mitzvah. Meanwhile, they stick a tall piece of wood inside and they write his name. And they have like a large stack in case they need. And on the wood that they have there, it's already written on top, Pei Nun. The Shetev is Poi Nitman. Here is buried. So that word's there already, just have to fill in the name. And I figured to myself, Sukkot is manchim as Simchas. No one's going to pass away in town in Sukkot. They don't need the wood. I'll take it for Sukkot, I'll bring it back. So I'm carrying the wood home. And on the way home, who do I meet? The Malach HaMavis.
Oh my.
And the Malach HaMavis says, where are you taking my wood? So he says, relax. No one's going to pass away anyway in Sukkot, right? And you don't need this wood. So Malach HaMavis says, no. There's someone who's going to pass away the Sukkot and have a job. Who? It's your neighbor. Your neighbor standing and he turns white. And he says to Malach, because you have to take away the life of my neighbor, you're not going to let me use this wood for Sukkot. Relax. My neighbor is dead already. He has no Simchas Achayim. He has a life. So if you wait till the Sukkot, it's the same thing. Malach agreed. To prove it to you that it's right, look around the sukkah. He looks and taka, every piece of wood says Pei Nun, Pei Nun, Pei Nun. So that hit him in the right spot. It was not good real. The non-chassid hopped and said he has a point. What Father Lebanon is does to be always zerbrochen and zekvetched. And he following Sukkot, he said, I gotta know who's your Rebbe that teaches you this. Simcha. And he himself went to learn what was Hashem to the Magdal to Rebbe, whatever the story was. I don't know if it's a real story. It doesn't sound like a real story, but it sounds like a real message. The Hainu, and those that Chayim Kruyim Mesim, and those are the Misasim Kruyim Chayim. So the Lebedikait, Chayas, has to do also with Simcha. Sai because Simcha put it together, and if there's ever a P'sachas Shalom, any type of Gzeda, the way to deal with it, the way the Rebbe taught us to deal with it, is to be moisef in Simcha. We saw that the Rebbe's heart attack at Tavshin Lamed Ches. And Bechlal, there used to be a line by Chassidim. The Rebbe, there was a kufa that the Rebbe made a tremendous amount of Simcha, especially if it was a chveis. Sometimes it's an Erev Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. People said something's going wrong. Something's going wrong in the world, and the Rebbe is trying to break it through Simcha. And we say, what happened? What's happening? The Rebbe is being moed Simcha. And Sabi know the word of the Tzemach Tzedek today is speaking trach gut wird sein gut. And the Rebbe shot that it's not just trach gut wird sein gut because you possibly made a mistake. You think your situation is not good. You should really think good. It's also that even there's a famous sikha, I'm going to hold arichas right now, but it's a famous sikha that Rebbe about this line trach gut wird sein gut. The Chodesh, someone could ask, what do you tell me trach gut wird sein gut? Because I have to believe in the Eibishter. And everything comes from Hashem. So put your sveikis and your atzvus and your troubles aside, trust the Eibishter. So a person might say, wait a second, maybe I deserve tzadas, chas v'shalom. I trust in the Eibishter, I believe the Eibishter is running the world. But maybe this is Nebuch, this is what he hasn't planned for me. Because I deserve a Einish. So I might come to that machshava. Say, what do you mean trach gut wird sein gut? Because you believe everything comes from Hashem. I believe everything comes from Hashem. Maybe this is what Hashem planned for me. Maybe I deserve it. Maybe I have an Aveda. And once, remember, as a Bacher, I was on some Mitzvahim, and I stopped a Yid in the building. We were both waiting for an elevator, so he had to listen to me. I tried to get him to put on tefillin. He didn't want to. But he said, some people tell me they pray to Hashem, they daven to Hashem, and Hashem doesn't answer their prayers. Me, Hashem always answers my prayers. He just always says no. Now, I was some counters on the it could be whatever he davened for, the no is the best answer, I don't know. But some might think that way. This is what Abish has planned. He's planning a no. So Rebbe says, when someone trach good, it means he thinks that the Abish will make everything good. That alone is such a big schus that even if he had any gzeda against him, the gzeda is ripped up and everything taka turns into good. In the schus that he trusts the Abish that will be good. The trach good turns. That should be vet zayin good. Not just trach good, the vals is good. The trach good, vet zayin good. It takes anything bad and turns it into good. That's how powerful it is being positive and having a munah mitoich simcha. Not just a munah. Munah mitoich simcha. So that's something that so as a chassid we have a little bit easier. We're trained that way. It comes to Simchas Beis Sheva and Simchas Sukkos as well as Simchas Torah. There has to be a Simcha that's pointed together. Simcha that breaks through. Breaking through our gather, breaking through the gather of the Misa Kuvim in Welt. And this, as you said in the beginning, the Mitzvah said, it makes a crack in the chavis. It leads to having a simcha kol hashana. Because taka we have to, but kol hashana, simcha is a prat in the mitzvah. But on Sukkot, simcha is a im b'fnei atzma, as we said before, that the Rambam holds that the extra simcha is at the Yeraisa, samachim b'fnei Hashem, kikum shavas yomim. And today it's in Golos it goes in every single yid. Everything has to be moisef and simcha. And take it from here that everything we do, Torah, our mitzvahs, even our business, Kol Masechel Shem Shemayim, it should be done with a Fakut Bet Zayin good, with a Hagish of Simcha, with a Hagish that things will, that it is good and it will be good. The Eibusha takes care of us. It doesn't take away from demanding Mashiach should come, Shine Ad Mosai. Doesn't take away. But now it's some Zman of Tshuva Mesimcha. His doinis become the Zechuyos. And when all his doinis turn to Zechuyos, the Eibusha must bring the Gula. Then we have a big peckle on the right side. Chaim l'chaim. We learn a lot to this verbring about Simcha, Tshuva Me'ava, and to work on ourselves. On the other hand, there's a klal, a ma'aser v'yikar. So what's the nafkamina if I have someone I do the mitzvah, and if I have Abbas Hashem when I do the mitzvah, and if I have a mitzvah without kavanah, you're yotzah. If you have kavanah, you don't do the mitzvah, you're not yotzah. If you want to know how to do the mitzvah, read your chalanos. What do we do by the Fabringens and by Shure Chassidus? We're learning how to have Abbas Hashem, Yidus Hashem, Simcha and Avodas Hashem. We're doing a lot of avoid the pnimis. Myself. Not that the Eibishter, the Chassidus explains the reason why the Eibishter made the world. I have a dira b'tachtonim. That was the main reason. And how do you make a dira b'tachtonim? The mitzvahs. Tafka mitzvahs. That's our last point. The Maisa Gadol, the Maila mitzvahs will be shining because that's what brought the Geula. Mitzvahs, the Talmud Gashmias. There's a word from Alter Rebbe in Tanya. And it says, Kavana keguf b'li neshama. Can you imagine what it means to have a guf b'li neshama? Can't compare a guf with a neshama and a guf without a neshama. And the same idea brought down in the musig of Dira B'Tachtoinim. Taka, Dira B'Tachtoinim means to make a house for Hashem. But in a house, people in their own house, they want a nice house. That's shot. That's why we live in a sukkah. Teishra Kedura. The lacha is you should bring your kelim noim in the sukkah. It should be a nice place to spend time. It has to be a lichtik shtu, b'sheinu. The king is coming to live with you in your house. I don't know if they have 4 walls. It's a shed. It's a loch. It's the lichtik shtu b'sheinu shtu. And a lichtik shtu b'sheinu shtu, it's through avoid the pnimis. That's in addition to the fact that it's really also negate to keep a mitzvah also. When you have a geschmack and a chayes doing a mitzvah, you end up being mahadir the mitzvah. You end up trying to do every prat in the mitzvah properly because you're happy to you want to do it. You're just doing it because I'm nice or weaker and that's it. So it's a checklist. A yoitz and that's it. But even if you manage without chayes to do everything, but you're missing that lichtigkeit, the beautiful dita. And therefore the avoid the pnimius is like a very negayas, not just a side prat. Negayah for the dita b'tachtoin that make the Eibishter. It should be a shena dita, a lichtigkeit dita. And also in a person itself. Every yid is a little bit of a dita. And the Eibishter said, also the mikdash shechat b'soicham, I think it was the Baal Shem Tov and the Rabbi that said that as soon as the Eibishter said it, the Mishkan, Beis Mishkan is already built. We're in the heart of every yid. And our Beis Midrash and whole heart, our dira b'tachtoin that we make in ourselves, that's all lichtig. The lichtig is through the avoid the premise. includes Hamoed Hashem. There was a beautiful pshat from the Rebbe. The Mishnah regarding Simchas Beis Sheva, the Behemshech it says three things. It says MIchel Simchas Beis Sheva Leira Simcha Miyamav. MIchel Yerushalayim Leira Krach Yofa Miyamav. And MIchel Beis Hamikdash Leira Bin Yofa. The Rebbe says, why does it say it in the Oifen Shlui? Not see such a simcha, not see such a house. You didn't see any simcha in your life, any house in your life. It's just the Rebbe explains. I'm only going to explain one of the three. What does it mean? Make a wall, build a house. You take a lot of tiny pieces, whatever is the sand, rocks, and you put it together, you make walls, you make a house. The idea of making a house, and making walls of a house, is to take out pratim mifradim and make achtos out of them, which in the deeper message would mean taking a world that looks like a lot of dvarim mifradim, show that's one Hashem. At the same time, what does a wall do? The wall separates, like the Beis Hamikdash. They made the walls. Inside is the Beis Hamikdash, Kodesh, and outside is Chol. So Mechitza separates. So it's two opposites. And the Shlomo is on the greatest Achdus. Take a lot of pieces and you make it into one and become one. But one, they all need each other. If some of the wall is missing, this wall is missing. You need a tremendous Achdus. At the same time, it creates a mechitza. Here is Kodesh and there is Chol. And within the Beis Hamikdash itself, there were a few pratim, Chol, Azara. So there are two opposites. How do you write this thing? And this is part of what we have to do. We have to make the Vel the Dira B'Tachtonim. So we have to make the Vel the binyan for Hashem. So what are you going to do? You're going to make the Vel, on the one hand, you're going to use your Gashmias to show there's one there. At the same time, you're going to make a mechitza between kedusha and chol. You're going to it's nimna. How are you able to do that? Says the Mishnah, you need koyach for this. MIchel Ada, it's a mikdash Ada bin yafa. There are a lot of binyan. There are binyanim yafim. Yafa, unless you first see binyan. Some people say, "Ayois, amai so ikir." So why am I spending so much time davening barichus? And why spending time learning shiurim to go work and use the gashmias, use the work and use my eating and use and all the other gashmias they do to make a keli. Many ways you learn ma'ila balesek, ma'ila being involved in gashmias. And make that a keli for the course, and that makes a difference. Am I so eager? What do I have to spend time davening, turning? Go straight to the make a difference there. Or a bacher might say, I have to spend so many years in yeshiva. Go straight in shlichus. I don't have time all day. Says the Mishnah, MIchel Rabbi Samigdash, Rabbi bin Yafa. If you want to make a bin Yafa, you want that your Maisa should be a good binyan. Shane opinion. You have to first make in your heart the Beis Hamikdash. And then when you go out, you'll do the right job. How do you make a Beis Hamikdash by zich? That's through davening and learning. And working in your davening. And after davening, working in your learning. And then your mice is a different type of mice. Which is al derech, a different verbringen. I want to say both, the kids are minutes. About sukkahs. Rebbe says there's two opposites in a sukkah. In the one hand, the sukkah has to be a keva, settled place. But the Jivas Yemei Sukkahs, Adam Oisa, they don't say Ari v'Sukkah, say keva. The other hand, the loch is to be a kosher sukkah, has to be a diras arai. If your sukkah is built in a way of a diras keva, it's a pasla sukkah. The sukkah got to be sukkah is possible because you have to build a lower sukkah strong enough to handle the building on top. Can't be a diras keva or all the other psulim they have. So the point of a sukkah is to have arai or to have keva. Which one? Fast forward to the punchline. Rabbi says, just like in a sukkah, in order for you to be yoitza, your mitzvah of sitting in your sukkah, you have to realize that it's built as a diras arai. So too, when you have to make the world a dir b'tachtonim, you have to see that the world is a place of arai. And then you can turn it into a diras keva for the Eibishter. In other words, if your approach is to that you're very nispal from that, money is very important to you, and COVID is very important to you, and what society thinks is very important to you. And then here you're going to try and make a dira for the Eibishter. You have a problem. To you, Gashmi is, and Vel is so important, you're not able to transfer. Controlled by it. But if you look on Vel as a place of Arai, Gashmi is unimportant. Money doesn't mean much. COVID is a waste of time. I don't have to work. Then you have to work, get money, get covered, whatever. And make through that a dinner with Tachtonim. Let's do best to stay second from them. You look on Velt as a place of Arai. Or I like to say, this is my own 2 cents. We say it should be Adira but Tachtonim. And Tachtonim is like a very negative thing. It's Tachtonim. It says if you realize the world is Tachtonim, the frat, there's not too many people here from Eretz Yisrael, but in Israel, when they say this pasuk, Adam, have a big problem with the word Dira Batachtoinim. Some shluchim, they changed the word to Dira Pola Mata, thing. So it shouldn't be, when they say Dira Batachtoinim in an Israeli accent, in Ivrit, doesn't sound so good. But Be'emes is as like. If you realize that the world is Tachtoinim, Ubefrat, the way it's said in Hebrew, then you can make a dira there. Then you can make a dira Lizbaraka. Shaken if the Welt is out, you worship the Gashmis, you worship the Maza, hard to make a dira there. And that's the word of the Sukkah, because you look at it, that's a dira Sare, that way you can turn it into a dira Kava. And that's why it's very important. We said here, MIchel Rabbi, Rabbi Yafa. Not that there isn't a binyan Yafa. The Welt also is a binyan Yafa. You can turn the world into the time and make the world a dira Yafa leisbara. You first have to have your basic mission in your own heart. By dir daf zayin daf leichten. And that was the avoid of Chassidim and Chassidus to work in avoid the previous. Eina Chanami and Aradar, the Rebbe said, can't wait till you're fully ready, till you're fully gebacken, still be Makar of Yidden, even though you're still not 100%. And still do things lav dafka you feel you're in that level. And there's many Hidudim that we do today that the Mochsim didn't do till they were on that level. We don't have time to wait. Achara and Maisim Nimshach Alavavis will get there eventually. But it doesn't take away, this is very, very important. Avoid the pnimis of working on it. A Yid should be besimcha. And you should have Avos Hashem. And at least learn about what it means to have Simcha and Avos Hashem and Unus Hashem properly. Learn about avoid the Pnimi. And that will actually help side to be Mahad in the mitzvahs, and side that the mitzvahs you do should be lichtik mitzvahs. The dira you do should be a lichtik dira. And that not that the Welt controls you, you stays hechem of Welt, you pick up the Welt. And the star, it's by picking up, by having this avoid the Pnimis. Chaim.
Marosov Elohivoy, Eilecha Kuvenim La, Recha Say, about Hey, Did it, אהבת יסונו ונתיסו ונאוי כמזון מכל השי וכי יש לנו מצייסו ונאוי כמזון מכל השי וכי יש לנו מצייסו וכינו يلا يلا يلا
Huh?